Storytellers. Thank you for joining me for this live tonight. I've been really looking forward to seeing you all and talking about 5 things that I think teachers should stop doing when they're reading stories aloud to young learners. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Claire Venables, and I've been in ELT for 18 years, and I'm an experienced and qualified English teacher, and I'm currently based in Sao Paulo. Now, in the 18 years that I've been teaching English to children, I've discovered that effective storytelling really is an amazing tool to use with children to learn language. And it's something that I've been working on and developing within myself as a skill as a teacher for many, many years. And what I'm going to be talking about today is based a lot on experience in the classroom. It's based on the background reading that I've done, and it's based on a lot of trial and error and, full disclosure, a lot of failure at storytelling as well with kids. So this is my opinion. And you're free to disagree with me about anything that I'm going to say this evening, and keep reading the way that works for you and your kids. But I would like to share some of the things that I've been seeing through my observations of teachers. And really give you some suggestions for what you could do instead, okay? So I think what's motivated me to do this live is that I know that not everyone can come along to the courses that I run on storytelling. It can be hard to get to, and people here in my community, in the active English community, really do want to develop their skills of storytelling. It's been a big topic that I've been talking about for a while, but that's been in response to this demand that I've had from teachers to find out more about storytelling. So this is for those teachers, but it's also for the teachers who perhaps have a little bit more experience, but and are sharing stuff online. And I'm seeing these sort of same what I think is not best practice. So tonight I want to talk about that. I think that some of the mistakes that I'm seeing are so common, and it's because storytelling is assumed to be something that we can do. I mean, you can read a book, you can tell stories, and it's just not the case. When you're storytelling for language teaching and learning, there really are specific skills are required, and we're not getting that training. So this is something that I would like to share. Specifically what I'm going to cover in the next 20 minutes, I guess. This is going to be really short, really informal, but I'm going to spend 20 minutes, and this is what I'm going to talk to you about. This is the content that I want to pass to you. I'm going to walk you through the 5 mistakes that I see teachers making. I'm going to explain why I think this is not effective practices. These aren't effective practices. And I'm going to make suggestions for what you can do instead. And then I'm also I'm very excited to be launching my next dates and cities for the Art of Storytelling Immersion course that I've been offering this month. And I'm going to have new dates and new cities. So stick around. I've also got a very, very special promo code that I'm going to be sharing with the people here who are watching this live. So stick around so you can find out more about that at the end. But let's jump in now, and we're going to start off with the number 1 problem that I'm seeing from teachers. It's how you're sitting your students for story time, guys. Listen, folks, 84% of active English teachers told me that they sit their students in a circle for story time. Is that you? Is that something that you're doing? Are you sitting your students in a circle to read a book to them? Because if you are, stop. Just stop doing it like that. Put them in rows. And I know this sounds super traditional to say put them in rows, but do put them in rows. And let me tell you why you need to be doing this. The circle seating arrangement is very, very communicative. Think about it. It's a communicative way that we sit when we want to talk to people, when we want to put our students to talk, when we're introducing vocabulary or discussions. We put people facing each other so that they talk to each other, so that they can see each other. we do this because we want them to communicate. So when you're reading a story aloud to a group of children, what do you think is happening when you're sitting that child in front of one of their friends, facing their body, facing one of their friends? It's natural that they're going to want to communicate, and their attention and focus is going to be on what they can see. Now, this is a big mistake. And I know that in a lot of this is something that I haven't seen in other countries. I've seen it specifically here in Brazil. So it might be a cultural thing, but think about this as well. When you are reading a story to children whose first language isn't English, they're learning English, they probably have quite a low level of proficiency, the gestures and the images are everything. So if they don't have their eyes on you and their body facing you, they're focused towards you and the book and the gestures that you're making, you've lost them, because you're not providing them with the language support that they need in order to understand the meaning of the text. So that's the first one. Get your kids sitting in rows facing you. Make sure that you're sitting on a chair higher than everyone else. You've got the book where absolutely everyone can see it. So that's my first tip. I hope you find that useful. The second one is about, let me see, that brings me to the next point. It's the misuse of students' first language. So a lot of teachers that I've spoken to are mixing up Portuguese and English while they're telling stories. And they do this, I think, out of fear that the students aren't going to understand them if they're just using English. And I think that, let me first of all say this straight up, I'm not against the use of L1 in the classroom, especially if I think that is going to provide support for L2, language 2 in this case, English production. So I'm not against it, but what I do think is that it's not necessary at story time if you have chosen the right book, you've given the right language support, and you've set up the story time. It can be completely in English. And this is an excellent opportunity to give children maximal context, language in context. So I think that if you're having to rely on Portuguese or whatever their first language is in order to have them understand the story, you've probably got something else going wrong there. Either your choice of story or some of the other strategies need to be adjusted so that they can understand. Don't forget this about children as well. Children are coming to our classroom with a very well-developed ability to interpret meaning from context. They do this all the time in their first language. They're always still developing their proficiency in their mother tongue. So they're very used to listening to conversations that they don't understand everything, and using things like gesture, body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, intonation to interpret what people are saying. So you can use all of these, and you must use all of these when you're storytelling as well. And of course, kids use the context. And the story is the context. It's everything. Story is context. Yeah, so just be mindful and maybe try and adjust a couple of things if you are finding that you can't do it in English. So 3, when and how you're testing their knowledge of the key vocabulary, please stop. Please just stop. Stop. It's my number one thing that I can't stand watching when I'm observing teachers storytelling and they're trying to test vocabulary in that story moment. Let me give you a quote here. Let me give you my favorite quote about storytelling. It goes something like this: a well-selected story told by an effective storyteller captivates young listeners' attention, and the story, the teller, and the listener work together in harmony. That's what you want. Please stop ruining the flow and the magic of a really well-written story by testing their vocabulary. You know, what's this? What's this? What's this? Put your hand up if you're guilty of doing that. Have you been doing that? Have you been doing that to the story? Have you been butchering the story with what's this? Now what's this? You know, I wrote to the zoo to send me a pet. What's this? What's this? What color is it? What's he? stop. Just stop. There is a time and a place for working on language, and it's not during that beautiful storytelling moment. I want you to think of when you went to a play or you went to a concert. How would you feel if the play was interrupted by someone saying, "Do you get it? Tell me what you think they just meant. What do you think those lyrics are about?" It would be awful. It would be awful. Remember that storytelling is not just about language learning. Storytelling is about so much more. You are creating a really special moment that children have to focus, pay attention. They're developing their patience. They're developing their knowledge of the world, and they're developing a love of literacy, a love of stories and of books. So don't ruin it by testing the vocabulary. Save that for before or after. And of course, in the course, we have a look at all of these kinds of things, like how to pick a good story, how to pre-teach vocabulary if needed, how to provide language support through lots of other things, and how to work on vocabulary or use the story as a jump-off point for learning later. Okay, so there we go. Let's just summarize what we've talked about so far. Put your students in rows, not a circle. Don't use L1, in this case Portuguese. Don't use their first language. Just use English when you're telling the story, and do that by selecting an appropriate book and providing enough language support through gesture, facial expression, pre-teaching vocabulary, and these kinds of things. Stop testing them during the story. Don't ask them to explain what they think they know during the story. And the next one that we're going to talk about is, that brings me to my next mistake that I see lots and lots of teachers making. You want children interacting with the story, right? You don't want the interaction to be what's this, but you do want them participating. It's really important that they, if they're going to sit through a whole story, they need to be somehow involved in this story. They need to be active. So how are you preparing for your story? This is really, really relevant. Because if you are not rehearsing your story, if you're not reading the story, studying the book before you actually read it, you are not going to have this down. You're not going to be able to deliver the story effectively. What you need to do is you need to literally, this is what I've done before. I've sat in front of a mirror and I have read the story to myself. And this is the moment when I plan out the intonation of my voice, my gestures, my facial expressions, and how I'm going to have the children interacting with that story. So, for example, if I was to read, oh, look, I've got a story here. So here's Dear Zoo. So I actually know this story off by heart, and I would sit here with my students, and I know that my gestures are always the same, and my intonation of my voice is always the same. I wrote to the zoo to send me a pet. So they sent me what do you think it is? It's an elephant. Oh, but he was too big. So I sent him back. And all of these gestures that I use, the expressions, my voice, they all help children understand the meaning of the text. They're planned and they're consistent. And it's through that consistency that you're going to have your students picking up entire chunks of language from this story, from the repetition of the story in the same way. And if you go onto my Instagram account, you will see that I've actually got a video of a little boy reading this story word for word, and he'd memorized it all. Does he understand the meaning of all of the words? No, but one day he will. You can be sure of that. Just a little anecdote, actually, something that's just happened on Facebook to me is my dad saw a post that I'd done of a story from my childhood called Noisy Nora. And he went on there and he said, look, I can't exactly remember. I remember reading this story too, and I remember the melody and the rhythm of it, but I can't remember all the words. And I wrote to him, I'm back again, said Nora. And then he finished off the sentence with a monumental crash, because those storytelling moments are memorable. They're so memorable that they get stuck with us forever. So that's a story that he used to read to me when I must have been 5 or 6, and he still remembers those language chunks. And my students will remember this story. I'm 100% sure of it. So storytelling is powerful when done right. Prepare, rehearse. Once you've memorized this story, it starts raining and the kids start climbing up the walls. What are you going to do? when you are a really effective storyteller, you know you can pick up one of your favorite books, one of their favorite books, and you can read them a story, and it's just going to create this magical moment. So it's worth rehearsing. The last thing I'm going to talk to you about today brings us to the topic of the books that you're using. How convenient. The last thing I want to talk to you about is your choice of books. Now, nowadays, I'm moving away from graded readers, and I pretty much only use authentic stories. But it doesn't mean that you can just pick up any book that is popular in an English-speaking country and it will work with your learners. No. This is a mistake that a lot of teachers make. They are choosing books that are not appropriate as read-alouds. And I'm not saying that they're not great books and that you can't do lots of other things with them. I'm saying as a read aloud, as a story that you read to a group of children, they don't work, because there are very specific characteristics that you want to look for when you're choosing a book to read aloud to children. Language learners, okay? I'm talking specifically about children who are not English speakers and are learning a language and do not have a very high level of proficiency. We need to be mindful of the kind of books that we're choosing. And this is something that I talk about a lot in my course. I've written a post for One Stop English about this with these characteristics. I think I might even have something on my blog about this. But I also have, if you go to my Instagram TV, I've recorded 5 videos which describe my favorite 5 books. And in these videos, I don't just name the book, I talk about why they're such a great book. And I go over some of these characteristics. And it's really clear examples. And you can check that out there if you like. So I hope that these tips or these suggestions that I've made about these 5 mistakes, I hope you found them useful. And I hope that they've given you a little bit of at least food for thought about how you're reading your stories to children. Like I said, it's just my opinion, and you're welcome to disagree with me and share your own advice about how you would read stories aloud. So yeah, that brings me to the end of this live, really, except for the fact that I need to now launch, and I'm very, very, very excited to be doing this. I put together the storytelling course in response to this demand that I have from my community, because teachers want something practical. They want to develop skills, and there is nothing out there that is helping young learner teachers develop the kind of practical skills that we need for us to be successful and fulfilled with our classes and effective for our students. So that's where the storytelling course that I run was born. And I run one in Sao Paulo and one in Belo Horizonte, and both have just been amazing days. Would you like to spend a full day with me learning all about storytelling? Because that's what I'm offering in July. I've got a whole range of new cities, and I'm going to have to check this to make sure that I get this right. The first one is going to be in Vitória. It's going to be on the 7th of July. So hi to all my capixabas there. I'm coming back on the 7th of July. That's a Sunday in Vitória. On the 13th of July, I'm in Sao Paulo. So Sao Paulo teachers, you've got a second opportunity to come along and learn all about storytelling, hone your skills. I'll be in Tabuete on the 24th of July. And for the very, very first time, I'm going to Salvador. So spread the word to all of the teachers from Bahia, young learner teachers from Bahia. It'll be my first time teaching or working in Bahia. I've been there, of course, on holidays, and I love, love, love Salvador, and I'm going to be there on the 27th of July. So lots of dates, lots of different cities. I'm going on tour with the storytelling course, and I'm really excited to be doing this. Let me tell you a little bit more about the course. I want to share my passion with you about storytelling, and I want you to feel excited, motivated, and ready to step into your classroom the next day and tell stories with your children effectively. During the course, what you can expect is you're going to learn the whys and the hows of storytelling. We're going to go really deep into some of the things that I've talked about and much, much more. You're going to get hands-on practice, which I think is extremely valuable. Actually picking up books, reading aloud to your learners. You're you're going to be doing that, and you're going to be getting individual feedback from me on your storytelling techniques. And then you're going to have time, of course, to plan some lessons that you can use for your real groups. And if you come for the whole day, in the afternoon, we're going to be putting together a storyteller's toolkit with some of the things that you can use when you don't have a book. You can use stones, wooden spoons. We'll do a storytelling bag. We'll do some work with some cloth to make some puppets. So that really is a complete day all about storytelling. And as an extra bonus, what I would like you to do, or what I would like to offer you to give you, is a discount, of course, because I love my community and I appreciate all of the support and all of the interest that you have in this. So just for my active English teachers, for you here watching tonight, this course is valued at 299 reais, but I'm going to give you all 100 reais off, so that ends up being 199. You can pay for that in 12 installments of, I think it's like 24 reais a month, to come and join me for that full day of training. So if you would like to sign up, you're going to go straight away, because this is only going to last for 48 hours. So go to my bio and click on the link there, and that's going to take you to where you can sign up for this course. And you're going to use the code Instagram Live. That's the code Instagram Live. Instagram Live is the code. So use that code one more time. Instagram Live is that code that you're going to want to put in to get your 100-hour discount just for the next 48 hours, and then it's over, baby. So yes, teachers in Vitória, Sao Paulo, Tabuete, Salvador, I will be seeing you in July. Thank you all very much for being here tonight, and I can't wait to see some more storytelling getting shared in the Active English teaching community. It's been a pleasure to be here. I hope you found it useful. Bye-bye, everybody.